a union is the only thing that is strong enough to topple the power of mega corporations like Amazon. It's the only thing strong enough. We're not just here because it's the morally right thing to do, because it is. We're also here because it is the strategic thing to do. We're here because it's the smart thing to do. We're here because it's how we win.
My name is Keith. I work at the DPD-5 delivery station. It's like on the other side of Portland. Just to let you know, there are 3 fulfillment centers like this one and 3 delivery stations just in Portland. There's 6 Amazon warehouses. We are right now at the beginning of another recession. You can call it the COVID recession. I'm gonna start calling it the Great Depression Part 2. At the beginning of this recession in April of last year, there were over 200,000 Oregonians who lost their job. Over 100,000 workers in Portland alone lost their job in 1 month of last year. A third of them still don't have that job back, and it's not like unemployment was 0 before then. After I got laid off the second time in Florida, I decided to join the military, join the Army. I enlisted as a U.S. helicopter mechanic for 2 years, and then I moved to Oregon in 2010. I did not get the GI Bill. They changed the qualifications while I was in. I don't have any professional certification. I can't touch civilian helicopters, even though I worked on them for 2 years. And when I moved to Oregon, I spent 2 years homeless, trying to pay my way through college, going through all the struggles that I did. I've been injured. I've worked my butt off in a ton of construction jobs. And obviously my time in the military and being homeless, none of that was as difficult as the 1.5 years I have spent working at an Amazon warehouse. It is the worst. It is more dehumanizing, more degrading, more isolating, and more injurious, hazardous to my health than being in the United States Army. And we don't get health insurance, not like they do in the Army anyway.
When I talked to workers at Amazon who'd been here since 2018, and that's less than 7% of the workforce now because 93% of the workforce has left, that 7% said they saw their conditions deteriorate massively in 2020. What little benefits they did have at 6 times the injury rate of the industry nationally got worse in 2020. They saw more workers injured, more people getting hurt. That's why in Washington State right now, worker comp rates for Amazon just by itself are 15% higher than any other than the industry that they work in. And the reason for that, why it's higher than mechanized logging and why it's higher than law enforcement in the terms of risk of injury, is because Amazon chooses not to train workers, chooses not to promote safety, and chooses to allow those workers to be hurt so they can make more profit. Period. Social distancing, they talk about that a lot during the pandemic, was virtually impossible inside PDX-9. That's not something we could actually do physically from day to day. I don't know a single worker who could get through their whole day without violating that multiple times. In fact, safety people would stand in the middle of an aisle and force you to walk past them within 6 feet and then tell you weren't doing social distancing. So just be aware that's the kind of game playing that they're playing there. And that's why over 439 workers in the state of Oregon have been diagnosed with COVID working at Amazon sites. That's a huge number of workers. Like I said, PDX-9 just by itself is number 7 in Oregon for COVID cases. The other 6 above them are all prisons. It's a serious thing to think about working conditions when that's the conditions workers face. Bessemer, Alabama is super important. There's 6,000 workers on site in Bessemer right now who are being led by black mothers in the community who are saying, this is not acceptable. We're not gonna send our kids to take these jobs after we work these jobs. They're bad enough now. We need to change this and make this better jobs for everyone. So it's super important that we show solidarity with those workers in Bessemer, show solidarity with the workers here today. There's over 15,000 workers in the state of Oregon that work for Amazon now. Amazon that's got $213 million in tax breaks from the state. So we need to talk about real jobs with real wages and making it better for people right now.
Workers of the world unite, same struggle, same fight. Workers of the world unite.
Thank you all so much for coming.
There's over 439 cases of COVID just at Amazon locations in Oregon. PDX-9 behind us is number 7 in the state for COVID cases after 6 prisons. Working conditions inside are like a sweatshop where you can't do real social distancing. And so they're creating conditions where they're under-training workers, not focusing on safety. They're injuring workers heavily, and they're disposing of them, making them essential workers into disposable workers. They value profits and robots, and the workers they don't value at all. And that's why I'm here to fight that. That's not okay. You know, I've worked a long time in my life, and I've seen conditions degrade in jobs, and at a certain point you have to stand up.
There's no commitment to the employees. They just don't care if we get injured. They don't care if we quit. They don't care if we don't show up. They don't care if we do show up. They don't know our names. I don't know who my manager is. We're treated like robots, expendable. As soon as we break, we get fired. As soon as we malfunction, we get fired. If we don't follow orders, we get fired. They don't care about safety. They just tell you to go faster and faster. The only message I've ever gotten from upper management is work faster. The only one. And I've been there for a year and a half. Working that fast and that consistently just destroys your body. I didn't have this much problems in the US Army because they at least gave a crap and they only work just 8-hour days. Amazon, in the middle of last year, extended everybody's shift, I believe the whole United States, from 8 hours or whatever your shift was to 10 hours. And that extra 2 hours, extra 25% of work, has really put a toll on our bodies. And it's made it almost impossible to keep your job. I've had to call out from work. Put it this way, every day that I've ever called out from work has been because of an injury. Not because I was sick. If I have the sniffles or a fever, I'm going to work. Unless I can't because they have temperature checks now. But the only time I've ever missed work is because I physically couldn't walk and do the job. And that happened to me many times. I'm 32 years old. I'm a veteran. I've been through hard shit before. But this is the worst because they just work you until you drop. They don't care. They have no investment in you. All they want is for you to show up, do your job, and leave. And as long as you do that, they don't care about anything else.
I was fired by Amazon about 4 days before Christmas when I was working my regular shift when I was assaulted by a coworker on site, and they demanded that I not talk about it and then fired me the next day. I think that's unfair to workers in general. I think that's a real common occurrence, unfortunately. And it might have been tied to the fact that I was complaining about conditions inside, and they may have been targeting me for that as well.
The goals of today's actions are twofold. First, to bring attention to Brian's case, raise awareness about it, get Brian rehired. He never deserved to get fired. He was a great worker. He's got a family. He's supporting. The other goal is to highlight the bad conditions in Amazon and the need for a union. Amazon working conditions are by far the worst I've ever seen. I've worked construction, I've worked fast food, I've worked retail and grocery, I've done white collar jobs and blue collar jobs, I've done about everything you can think of. I worked at other places like Amazon, logistics centers. Amazon is the worst. I've worked at bottling plants. Amazon is the worst. They just don't care. They treat us like we were robots. They use us until we break and then they toss us aside. That's it.
There's people here organizing on site. There's more workers who want to work with them. We're going to change conditions, but we have to do that together. And that's the other part of the message. Is the only way conditions change is when workers stand together and stand up and exercise their power.
Reach out to Amazon Worker Solidarity Committee. That's Amazon Solidarity at protonmail.com. Join the DSA. If you are able to physically, and I understand a lot of people aren't, get a job here and help us organize a union. If you can't, donate money to our campaign. That helps pay for things like Brian's legal fees as he tries to get rehired. Organize your workplace. Do whatever you can. Organize where you're at. Organize your fellow tenants. Organize your fellow retirees. Whatever you got to do to demand your rights, get organized, because the poor people are in a crisis right now. We're facing massive evictions, low wages, unemployment, and the only way this is going to change, the only way it ever did change in the past, is when the poor people got organized and stood together in solidarity and demanded a better life.